Happy Little Landscapes back in the studio with you today. Welcome back to all you regulars and all you newcomers. Hey now, let's put some paint on our palettes, get our aprons out, and we're going to get ready to make a mess. So if you're ready to rock and roll, we're going to get started and we're going to do it just like this.
Hey guys, Josh, Happy Little Landscapes, back in the studio today with that really super professional sounding voiceover that we did in the beginning. I know, right? Happy Little Landscapes. Tell me about it, right? So we came back with a 24 by 30 inch canvas today. Showed you how to do this big mountain using a lot of brown, not a lot of white. Real bright green trees, bright on our texture, on our bushes, super textured, right? So if you're having trouble with any of those things, this painting is the perfect painting for you. And if you want to just sit back and laugh at me being stupid all day, then we can do that too, right? So without any further ado, I'm going to show you what colors you need, what brushes you need in order to do a painting just like this one. And we're going to do it on 1 and 2 and... Hey guys, today we have different angle. I'm going to try to show you guys here. So we've got sap green, dark sienna, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, midnight black, titanium white, bright red, yellow oak, and Indian yellow, okay? We're going to do sort of a mixture of 2 different scenes. Might just end up turning into 1 scene, but we have a couple paintings that we need to recreate. We're going to do it on a bigger scale. I've got a 24 by 30 inch canvas here, and we're just going to make a, they never come out the same, so it's going to be different than anything we've ever painted before. So, hope you guys are ready. Probably need a 1 inch and 2 inch brush today. Fan brush, a good size, like a size 10 fan brush. Maybe some micro fan brushes. Liner brush, palette knife, probably all we're going to use. If you don't have any of those things, check the description below and you can find my Amazon storefront link where you'll be able to purchase this palette, this easel, the canvases, the brushes that we use, the liquid white, liquid clear, liquid black, all of Bob Ross's colors, Gamblin 1980, Winsor & Newton, whatever you like to paint with. We even got the Magic Fly set there. And, you go on there, you save a couple bucks, and it helps me out a little bit when you order through Amazon. So, what can you do, right? What can you do? I'm unsure of this angle, guys. This angle, I don't know. I used to like it, now I might not. I need your guys' help. Please, comment in the comments below. Tell me whether or not you like this, facing this direction with the canvas on our right here, shooting from the left, right? Or if you'd prefer, we shot from the right, then you'd be able to see from the other direction, okay? So let me know, and that'll help me sort of sort out my studio. I can paint either which way. I just don't want to get too much in the way of you guys if I'm trying to do something small, you know what I mean? So let me know what you think. Left or right, like we used to do it when we lived in the old place, right? Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to come in with some Indian yellow and some yellow ochre, just right on the brush, both sides. And we're going to come down here into the middle, and we're going to start just like this, right? Now look at that deep, dark color. That's why I like that yellow ochre for the, like sunsetty skies. You get this nice, deep, dark yellow. And we're going to reflect some of it down into our water and up into our sky. Right, just sort of blocking the color on. We're not really blending it out right now, not doing too much, just sort of blocking it on there, okay? Going to take our red, both sides of the brush again. Going to come down here into our water area, right, that we're saying is water over here. Just pulling in basically straight side to side, okay? Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. You don't need a whole lot of red either. Do not need a whole lot. We're going to come up into our sky, making these crisscross strokes, right? I guess we could be using something other than the 1 inch brush. Might go a little bit faster. Maybe if we use the 2 inch brush, it'll go a little quicker. So let's clean the brushes here. We use Jasco brush cleaner. You can find it on my Amazon storefront link, amazon.com/shop/happylandscapeart. And then down here I've got a beater bucket. I'm sure you've seen it in all my other videos. Nice nasty little bucket. And that just helps me beat the devil out of the brush without spraying it all over the house, right? My wife might get a little angry if I were just to spray this stuff all over the new house. Alright, now we're going to go into our Prussian blue and our crimson all over the brush. Get a fair amount of paint, right? And then we're going to come up here. Look at all these deep, dark purples and blues with the crimson. Oh, it's beautiful. Just don't overmix it, okay? Don't want to blend it too much. Let's come back, get a little bit more of that paint. How are we looking? It's not too bad from this side, right? Come over here in front of you guys for a second. Get up underneath there. Cover the top, cover the sides, right? We always cover the sides. Gotta cover the sides, guys. A little bit more blue and crims. Oh yeah. And they don't all have to be the same, mixture of stuff. You don't have to have the same color across your whole sky, right? You want these differences where you got a little bit darker blue, a little bit more crimson in this area. You want differences, right? You don't want it to just be this plain, flat, old-looking sky. At least I don't. Right? I don't even like these hard lines in between where you can tell where each color starts and where each color stops. So we're going to blend those out. We're going to blend them out. And we might as well just wash this brush and get it done. Beat the devil out of it. And then I always come over here and just dab it on a paper towel. Dab, right? Dab it on a paper towel. Nice, dry, clean brush. And we're going to come back in here into our yellow area. For those of you keeping score, new easel. You can see I can hold a lot bigger paintings on this easel. And now my canvas doesn't shake all around and I don't have to hold it anymore, which is a good thing. Let me bring some of this down in here. So you don't just have to brush it in one direction either. You know what I mean? Especially when we're blending out, you want all these colors kind of crisscross back and forth to where you can't really tell where one starts and one stops. Now that we've blended that orange into the yellow, you can't tell where it starts and stops. All right, you can come in here. If this is a bit too yellow for me, then I can come down and just blend it out. Right? Now, once we've gone over our light colors, and we go into the dark colors, you don't want to come back down to the light colors, right? And I'm going to switch brushes real fast just so we can get this top part blended out. And again, I don't want to over blend it. A lot of times your brush will do these, cool things all on its own and drop a little bit more paint in certain areas, right? In these little lines. And what that does is just gives you more depth in your sky. So don't blend it all the way out. All right, we want to blend these together. Back and forth until we can't really tell where one color kind of starts and one color kind of stops. That's why we put this bit of red in between our yellow, because once we come up with the blue and you start coming down into a yellow, it'll go green. Don't know if you guys remember that from elementary school, but that's what will happen. So just make it nice and soft little blended sky, and then what we can do is grab some of that same stuff that we forgot, because we always forget, and we'll just put it down here at the bottom. All right, just gonna pull sideways. Pull it sideways, right? Come over here, get a little bit more, pull it in this direction. Maybe let's try to leave this little bit of white area right there in the middle, where it's a little bit lighter than the rest. You see what I'm talking about? That little glare. We'll try to leave that area. Cover the sides. And we'll leave that area a little bit lighter than the rest of them. Okay, and who knows what's going to happen with all this water. We're going to have, we'll come down and we might fill it full of reflections, or it'll change color, or it'll do anything. So don't really worry about it a lot. Just try to have that little lighter area in there. It's pretty much all we're trying to do. Just that little bit of area. Alright, now we're going to come side to side across this whole thing, and that's just going to take out any of those brush strokes that we left in there, our little side to side brush strokes, right? And come across. Your arm starts to get tired when you're working on these big old canvases. Much different than a smaller canvas, that's for sure. But you know what's good about big canvases? You get a lot of room for those happy little accidents, right? It's It's much more difficult for me anyway to paint on a smaller canvas than on a much larger one. You can just do bigger things. You can let more things sort of, create themselves, which is what we're about when we're painting with Josh, right? We kind of follow what the canvas tells us to do. Never try to really force anything in there. All right, now that we've got our our nice pretty little pastel sunset sky, we're going to come in, get a little bit more of that crimson and blue, just a little bit though on the end of our brush, and we're going to come in and just create some clouds, just some far off cloud shapes, right? Depending on how much you put in there, that's what your cloud's going to look like. You can tell we're just sort of dropping these on in these weird shapes. And you're like, Josh, what are you doing? What is going on in your brain, right? Just trust, guys. Just trust me, okay? You guys have painted with me before. You should know by now to trust me, okay? Now, once we put those weird lines up there, we're going to come back in with that same brush and just make a couple circles, which just kind of blends those out, fades them a little bit, right? Blend these two in together. That's why we leave the space in between each one, each little different line, so it's not all the same, right? We've got all these different colors, colors from the background poking through, colors from our cloud shadow, right? All the colors of the sky. That's why we're not going to overblend anything, and we're just going to leave these big sort of, different colored clouds in there. What people want to see, different colors, right? Don't want to be using the same old color all the time for everything. Everything becomes flat, right? Look at that. A couple swipes to the side. Now we've got these far off distant clouds way back in the distance, right? And we don't even know how many clouds we're going to need. So why don't we take a couple more, put some red ones down here. We may not even end up using all of these. Some of them might be covered, but we'll know they're back there, right? We'll know in our heads. We'll be looking at it and be like, ha, right back behind here is this beautiful red cloud that got covered up. There we go. Back when I was painting it, you know what I mean? You'll know. It'll be there. Let's take a little bit of that, a little of that. A little bit of that dark black color, or your mountain mixture, whatever you're rocking with. I like using that mountain mixture a lot versus just the straight black. It's just something about that mixture of color that I like. I just like that color. With the blue, it's sort of grayish, it's kind of purpley. It depends on where you put it in your canvas. Depends on the color that'll bring out. And I really like it. Alright, let's wash off this brush here. You can change your idea. You can step back and look at it and think, man, that might look really cool as a seascape. If we put a little beach here with a wave, or whatever you're thinking, go with that idea. You don't always have to go with the same idea that you started with, right? You see something, you change it, that's painting to me. Always comes out a little bit different. Okay, we're going to grab our small palette knife now, grab up a lot of that white color, and just over our shadows, not everywhere, right? Not everywhere, especially on these little small ones up here. Just randomly depositing a bit of that white color. Same thing with our bigger one, just need a little bit more paint. But again, we're leaving spaces in between, and that way those whites will blend together and not cover up everything, right? We don't need everything covered. So leave some areas, and when we start to mix them together, they will all blend into these different colors of white. It'll mix with the background color. It'll mix with the color of our shadows. These reds or the purples or the blacks. Everything will mix together. Okay, I'm going to show you. We're going to come up here, start up in this area, see if the camera can zoom up this far. Oh, it can see it. And we're just going to come down like this, just leaving areas in between. Okay, I didn't even touch the two whites, and now it looks like, even just in the little mini screen that I can see on the camera, looks like the cloud sort of wraps around itself. You can go up this way. You don't always have to spin the same way. the same direction, right? Just change it up every so often. Go, you know, counterclockwise into clockwise, into counterclockwise, into clockwise, and just mix it. All we're doing is just sort of disturbing what it looks like up there. We're not trying to make a certain shape. We're not trying to blend it all the way out, right? We're just sort of disturbing what it looks like. Taking it from what the knife left, right? And just sort of disturbing it. Just mess with it a bit. That's all you really got to do. Okay, we're going to come in, we're going to swipe up from the bottom of our cloud very softly, and then we're going to come to the side. Just like 3 hairs of the brush and a bit of wind. 3 hairs and some air, right? That's what Bob used to say. And just like that, we've got these really far off, distant sort of looking clouds. I'm going to come in again. Just start mixing it, but we're not going to over mix it. We're going to leave dark areas in between. Going to leave lighter areas, darker areas. All right, I'm just going to mix it up. And that way, we're going to get this mixture of color. All these differences in color, these brighter whites, darker colors, shadows. You don't want to get rid of everything. I don't know how many times I got to say it. Don't cover everything. Right? Like that. To the side. You can leave these little imperfections in there. Okay? A cloud is never this perfect shape. Look at that thing. It looks amazing. Right? And we're doing it very simply. Trying to show you guys these simple techniques. Okay? Just barely touching right down here, because this white will blend in with this red and eventually just disappear. Okay, so we didn't even touch all of the bits, right? And then we can come back in with our brush, we swipe it up, come to the side just very lightly, otherwise you're going to make it disappear. That's no joke, it will literally fade away into nothing, okay? Alright, now that we've got our wicked, dramatic looking sky, I mean, we could add tons more clouds to the sky. You could do whatever you wanted, you know what I mean? We could have this guy come down a little bit more, or whatever. Let's do that. If you're like, Josh, this doesn't look like one of your dramatic skies, right? Maybe we'll put another bit of guy back here. Try to keep some of the light underneath. Alright, big old sucker. Just gonna blend him up, blend him out. Blendy, blendy pants, right? Nice and soft. Come back with our brush. Come from the side. You can swipe back over your original cloud too, doesn't matter. Right? Come back in, get a little bit more white on our palette knife. Put these out there. And just sort of staying on that shadowy bit that we created, right? And come back with our 1-inch brush now. And just very, very lightly sort of disturb what that looks like, okay? It's not going to be the same amount of white all over, right? You don't want that. You don't want the same amount of white everywhere. Otherwise, you don't have any depth. Okay? I'm going to take that and swipe from this side. That way we don't leave any marks from our brush in our pretty sky over here, right? And now it's looking a lot more dramatic, just with that one little bit of extra added cloud that we put in. And like I said, you can make them as dark as you want. You can, every so often, hide a little bit of blue, right? Just a little bit of blue in the shadowy areas of that cloud. And just that little bit of difference in color, people will see when they're going to buy your painting, right? They'll notice that it's not all just white, or it's not all just, you know, this grayish, purplish color, or whatever it is. Right? You've got all these little hidden bits of different colors and different things inside your clouds. More detail than you normally would get. Right? We took a little bit of blue and just hit him underneath the base of that cloud, right? Just the littlest bit. Now we got this extra little shadow that's up underneath there. When someone's looking, they'll see it and go, wow, like, this guy used colors everywhere. Or this gal really knows how to paint. Okay, we got our big old sky. Now let's do something crazy. If we're gonna like intermix these two into, you know, a different paint, or we could just sort of do what we did before do that. We got to recreate this piece on a bigger scale anyway. There's no sense in doing something real nuts and changing it too much, because then it won't look like the original that I've already sold a couple of. So if we want to keep selling them, got to keep making them the same, right? Giant canvases. You know what we could do though? We could add like a little mountain. Let's add a little mountain. Just gonna add just a little bit of white to our dark color here. Alright, let's come in maybe over here and just decide where we're gonna live. Alright, it doesn't have to be a straight shape. You don't want to have, you know, these pyramidal style mountains, so they don't make them like pyramids. Right, and we come down. You can see we're scraping off the paint from the top and dragging it down here and adding more. That way we don't have too much paint on the canvas. We got this nice little messy shape. It's all there at random. And you want it random for when you come in to make your mountain, all these little bumps and humps, that it'll blend out randomly and you'll have all these different colors. As long as you don't overdo it and over blend it, you've got all these different colors that will just blend. And this guy comes down this way. Right, just like that. Get some of that thick paint off our brush. So now as we come down to blend out down in here where our lighter color is, right, you're going to want this fog at the base. It just means you blend it really soft. Right, real soft blending. Almost to where we can't even tell where it goes, where it stops, where it begins. Right? Blend it in, just crisscross strokes back and forth until you can't even really tell. Now let's come up. Let's get a little bit of brown and white. Get a little more black to put with our mixture there to do our shadows. Right, maybe all this bit back here is in the shadow. Down. Like that. Maybe there's a couple shadows just in there, hidden in there somewhere, right? Doesn't need to be perfect. And we'll come back in with our brown and white. And just start dropping these in. Going right over our shadows in some areas. And that's just going to push them back. Alright, we're not overdoing it though. You don't want to kill all those little cool breaks, right? Just want to come in, grab a little bit of it, and let it fly, man. And just don't go too crazy. The more crazy you go, the less breaks you're going to have, right? You're going to mush it all down into this same, this same kind of texture, which is not what we want. We want to have these breaks, we want to have all these cool little things that just happen randomly, and as long as you can see it beforehand, you don't go do too much and mess it up, right? Put a little bit of that color down the base where we need it. A little bit darker brown over here. Right, now we've got this bit. I can even do some straight black in between. You want to get those real deep shadows. Right, come back in, and every so often put a little bit of black in there. And it just makes it real. It makes it look so much more realistic to me when you've got all these real deep shadows where the sunlight just really is struggling to reach. Right, the sun's way back there; it's already setting, or maybe it's off in the distance over here; it's already going down. So it's important to have these kind of darker, deeper shadows. And we can add a little bit of the white with the brown, just in different areas. Just in different spots. Make it look realistic, right? We always use too much white in these paintings. Just every so often come in. You don't want to cover everything up. And now we've got multiple layers of texture, multiple layers of paint that are right there in the mountain. And it looks fantastic. Fantastic. Put some of that color down here just so we can make some fog out of it. Mix it in with the rest of that. Take our 2-inch brush and just sort of swipe up at the bottom in the direction that we laid it down, right? And that just makes it a little bit foggier off in the distance, sort of a mountain. And then we can come in with our 2-inch brush and make ourselves some fog. So yeah, we're going out this way for the fog. And all it's doing is taking these million little bristles and sort of just spreading it out. That's all we're really doing when we're doing that. And then we can come back in, grab some of that white from underneath, some of the yellow, some of the color, and then make our little fog out of it, right? You can have your fog come up higher on some areas if you wanted to. And what that's really doing now to us is just giving us a softer area, right, that doesn't have all that texture from all that. And that way it'll be easier to put our trees in there. Easier to put the trees in, right? Scrape up all that paint, add a little bit more blue, a little bit more black. Really mix these up. I want this giant pile of paint, you guys. Because we're going to be on these bigger canvases. Everything's got to be exponentially bigger, right? So we're going to be doing bigger forests, bigger trees. So we need a lot of paint today. A lot of paint. Okay, we're going to come back in, grab our favorite old little size 10, this little mini fan brush, right? Little size 10. Gigantic fan brush. And let's come in from the side over here, and we'll just start putting in these big old monster trees on this side. Right, different heights, different levels of thickness. You just want to bash them in there. Come back in, get some more paint when you start running out. And these will be a little bit more textured, a little darker. Right, come in like that. Maybe they sort of fade off into nothing back there. But we want the bottoms of them to be nice and thick and dark, right? You can let some of that light shine through at the top, but down around the bottom you want them nice and dark and kind of filled in. Some on the side for the buyer. Wash our brush off here. Probably won't even need to wash it though. Okay, got this big bunch of forest that's kind of coming out, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make some crazy fog out of this one too, right? This brush, that's why you need a clean, dry brush. Gotta be clean and dry. You can even use the other one in the meantime while that one's drying. Alright, come in. Again, making our fog, just kind of pulling it down so we can't even tell where the base of the trees start, where they stop. And we can come in again and just make our fog, right? Everything's fog. Josh always paints fog. Yeah, well, trust me, it's easier to get our next layer on. Right, you want this soft fog down there, because then we're not going to know where our water starts and stops. Let's take these trees, pull them straight up. Just makes them a little bit taller. Fog up the bottom again, okay? Foggy bottoms. So we should call every painting that Josh makes Foggy Bottoms. That's what we should do, guys. I'm not even 100% sure those are even long enough trees. So why don't we come back we're going to get some black. Just some straight up black, a little bit of that blue mixture, but mainly black, right? That way they're going to stand out away from these ones. And just down into the fog here, I'm going to put a whole nother section of forest, right? A whole nother bit of trees down here into the fog. And that way it's going to look like we've got multiple bits of forest at different heights. You can even make some of them look real textured, or make them look like a pine tree even. I'm going to fill in all this room down here. A lot of times I notice, especially with beginners, their water, if you're going to paint water, their water starts up way too high. So it's way too high on the canvas, so it looks like there's too much room in between. When I like to paint water, I like to paint it as you're looking flat out over it, so you really only see a small amount of it. You know what I mean? Depends on your perspective, depends on how close you are, how you're painting, what the painting is going to look like. Depends on how you do your water, of course, but I always feel that, you know, you start up too high and it just doesn't look correct. Let me put like a big old sucker in here. Just give some of these trees a bit of life, have them stand out a little bit more than the darker ones behind, right? And we can always come back and just highlight these just the smallest bit, and that'll help them kind of stand out. And they don't all have to be the same either. You guys know that. Doesn't have to be the same, doesn't have to look the same. They don't have to be the same shape or the same size. You just want a couple little indications that there's some trees out there. Okay, and we're going to come back in. We're going to fog up the bottom of this guy. Basically, with the top corner of our brush, right? Just sort of pushing down with the top corner. Okay. Switch brushes again. We're going to come back in and just fog these up. That way we can't tell where our water line is, where it begins, where it ends. Almost need a little bit more dark color down in here, just to help blend in with that fog, right? Over on this side, we don't really care about. We're going to cover it with some trees and stuff. Just making these circles, right? Josh patented circles. We're even still got that little bit of light shining on our lake now. Almost comes around like that. So, like I said, the more you get down, the more your water is going to change, and you really won't even see much. All right, what I want to do now is I want to make up some more of that tree color, right? Since we're going to try to make it the same as one of the other paintings. This one already looks different with the mountain, looks different enough, right? We're gotta buckle down, get back to business here about what we're supposed to be painting. And it does not look anything like this, which is why painting is fun to me, because even though we're trying to recreate something, you see something, you want to try something different, you know, maybe it would look cool with a mountain back there, or with two sets of trees, or whatever, you know what I mean? You just try it out, and you get it to work. And our water line is going to be about back in there. So we want to leave all this foggy. Unless you want to put a shoreline down, you can. I like the mysterious sort of look of the fog, right? Can't really tell what's back there, you know, what's going to be coming out. And what I want to do now is take and put a bunch of big tall trees coming down, right? Just different sizes, different lengths. Sort of went over a bit too far. We'll put them down like that. Alright, we're going to come in with the corner of the brush and just touch. And start going down in this little Z shape, back and forth, right? Take this guy, come down. Now for these you need a lot of paint, so keep going back to your Back to your palette, getting more paint. Don't have to come all the way down though. Alright, we want to leave a little bit of that fog back there behind our other trees, right? But you do need a shed load of paint, okay? Make these little sticks right on the top. Alright, just like that, we're coming down, back and forth. Now we're using all the bristles on the brush. Everything is nice and covered up down here. Right? You don't want to have a lot of, light shining through the bottom of your trees. All right, maybe this guy comes in like that. We'll just use the top corner of the brush until we get down to where you can start using every bit of the bristles, right? Now we're going to fog that up down there. Got our trunks that we got to remember about, right? And that's going to look good. Alright, let's take our fogging brush, the old fogging brush, right? We're going to come down here and just sort of drag these trees down a little bit, sort of remembering where those bits of trunk were. And we're just going to fog these up a little bit. Just pull them out. I mean, we don't even need to paint a river. That almost looks like a meadow of snowfall back there, without even doing anything. But we're going to paint the river like we normally do. Maybe it comes around, we'll have some land back here. Could even take, it's already got all the shadows in there, so we can just take the white. Maybe there's a little bit till it sort of disappears in that fog. Take our white, pull it down this way. Just so we have these different colors, right? Don't need a whole lot. You want it to blend in. You want it to, leave some of these shadowy colors down there. Mixed in with a little bit of white. And now we've got our little riverbed deal. Even push it out this way. And then we can come back and always cut it back with our river, right? A little bit more white. Remember, art is a play of light and dark, right? So, gotta have your lighter areas, your darker areas. Coming in like that, and now we've got this nice bit of fog where our river's gonna come around, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's looking good so far. Alright, we need to make up some big bit of bushes. So another ton of paint, black, blue, red, another big gigantic pile. Throw some of this red in there, the crimson and the red. Alright, throw a bit of our brown in. Nice giant pile of paint, so we can come back in with our little foliage brush. Alright, I like the smaller version versus the larger one. You can use whichever one you want. And I like to just come in and just tap it in to that brush. You get a bunch of goopy paint right into the brush there. Okay, and then we can say we'll come out, maybe there's a bit of a bush over there. There's another one over here. And in the meantime, we can just pull those out. Just so we can sort of see where our shoreline is. Come back in, get some more paint. Just big old dabs into that sucker. And we got this other giant bush that lives out here. All full of texture, right? You want little bits to be stuck on there, like leaves. You want it to look like leaves coming off, right? A bunch of stuck on pieces. Sort of fog up the bottom there. And then we can sort of decide where the base of our land is going to be, you know what I mean? So what we can do, why don't we pull out a little bit, just a little bit of land over there, just with our knife. And then we're going to have the water wrap up right around this thing. So you can see the angle that I'm pulling. The river's going to come wrapping around and be right here. Alright, let's add a little bit of dirt to that So a little bit of brown, a little bit of white, and we can come in and just add just a touch of little brown area here. Let's be like a little summer version of this painting. We don't have any snow on our mountain, so how could there be snow down here on the floor? The more we go out to the side, the straighter we're going to become. We've got this fog in between. We got to highlight these trees, which is going to be fun. All right, let's get our micro fan brushes and our liquid white. If you don't have the micro fan brush, you can go to amazon.com/shop/happylandscapeart and get you some micro fan brushes from Nick Pro. These are the ones I like to use. They're very small, but they give you all these cool details that you wouldn't normally get with a larger brush, right? You get many more branches, and it's just easier to play around with this little guy. And the further we get down our tree, the less and less we need. And the more you push, the more mud you're going to make. So leave it, leave your shadows alone. Don't try to cover everything. The goal is to not cover everything, okay? Now a little bit more green, a little bit more liquid white. I'm going to come in and just touch. We don't want to smush all those thick bits of texture that we did, right? Maybe that guy only comes down so far you can't really tell, and then this other tree comes in front. But you don't want to smash all the texture that you've created with your big brush where it left all those chunks of paint, right? So you need your liquid white with the green, and that thins it down, because Bob Ross always said a thin paint will stick to a thick paint, right? So we got our thick paint up there. It's very thick, it's very textured. We had to thin this down with our liquid white to make the green stick, right? Without having to work too much at it. And so all we're doing is just touching. I'm not pushing against the canvas. I'm not doing anything except touching where I think these branches belong. And then when I need to re-up, I wipe it off so I don't get more of that dark paint into my green. Right? That'll just dull your green. Maybe this guy grows up in the front, down around that guy, right? Totally up to you how you want to make it look. Okay, we're going to go back for more green, so we're going to wipe off the brush again. And just wipe it on a paper towel. You don't need to clean it between each one. Really not that big of a deal. Come back in and get some more green for our last little guy. And we're just touching. Whatever sticks is going to stick. That's what will make it random, right? Whatever sticks will stick. Everything else doesn't matter. And then obviously the further and further we get down, the less green there's going to be on our trees, okay? See what I mean? Wipe that brush off again. Now what I want to do is get a little bit of our brown, just a touch of white, just the littlest bit of white, right? Don't need a whole lot, because underneath here, I'm just going to add a little bit of tree trunk just throughout these trees, which we should have done beforehand, but Paint with Josh, we forget all the time. Okay, now we got a little bit of tree holding everything up. And then if you really wanted to, you could go back over and just touch once or twice above your tree trunks, wherever you put them. And that'll cover them sufficiently. You do it too many times, you're going to make more mud, you're going to lose all of your depth. Not going to have any tree, right? It's just going to be this big mess. Which is what we're about. We're about making messes around here, but when we're doing this, it's a very specific way that I do it. So if you like the way mine looks, do it that way, and we'll see, right? All right, let me just come back in with that dark and sort of cover up over the bottom of those trunks. There we go, just like that. I'm gonna wash this off because we're gonna need it to make our highlight colors. Now, since it's summertime, right? I'm going to get a little bit of that liquid white, maybe go into our red and yellow mixture. Need a fair amount of liquid white though, because you want it to stick, right? Tap it in like that, and then come back. Look at that beautiful color right there. All right, dab that off, Maybe there's a bit of green on these bushes too. Right, we're not covering up all the dark areas. You gotta have your dark areas. So don't cover all of those. And we're gonna come back in with that liquid white again. Maybe there's another, oh, look at the color on this sucker. Right? Again, we're just doing parts of the bush, right? You want to leave shadowing behind your bush. So we're just doing parts. And then on this next step, right, we'll come back into these same colors again. Dab them in. We're going to leave a bit in between that bush and the part that gets lit up again. See what I mean? So there's dark areas in between. You want to have these dark areas. And that gives us depth to our painting, right? Gotta have those dark spots. That looks really fantastic. Alright, let's take some more of that brown that we made for our thing down here. And just come in, make a little bit of, sort of clean up our shoreline, right? Pull this sucker out down here. Just figuring what it would look like with a little bit of white there, but so we can have some different color browns. And of course, what does Josh always do after his colors? Comes in with a little bit of shadow color, right? Just drop in that shadow in different places. You don't want it all in the same place, right? And you don't need it to be symmetrical or anything. You want to have it random. Make it look a little bit more realistic, right? Gotta have it random to look a little bit more realistic. We got all this fog over here. Got our river that comes around. Why don't we make these, we'll just put a little bit of color down in here. Just a little bit of that darker color. As the water wraps around towards us, it gets a little darker. I like that white area though right there. Alright, why don't we come in, let's do a little bit of our little black technique, right? Grab our black, start making our shoreline out of the black first. And we got the water that comes around, dips around there, maybe comes out. Totally up to you guys what you want to make it look like. Little piece of land coming out there into our stream. Now we'll come back in with our liquid white. And this is where we get our water lines, right? Got the water kind of crashing against the beach over there. It's pulling itself up over here. And you can see how these water lines mix in with that dark color, giving us a different color, right? And it's not all white, it's not all the same. It doesn't have to be in the same spot or even be symmetrical. It doesn't have to connect all the way around the side. You can do literally whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to even look like mine. Right? However you think it's going to look the most real in your mind, right? Got all that fog back there. You can almost see like a little bit of land back in here, almost. I want it to be so mysterious back there that you can't even tell where the water line is, where it ends, where it begins. Got it wrapped around our little point of our island or peninsula, whatever this is out here. Alright, let's come in on this side and give us a little bit of water line on the edge of our land back here, right? You just make it however you want to make it. Mine is sort of, the river's kind of turning around this way. So again, just do what you think you got to do to make it look the most real. Take this, just very lightly swipe it over, just straight to the side, and that's going to give us where our water is so we can decide what we're going to put on this end over here. We can even do that big branch that comes in from the side if we needed to. Or we could do a whole bunch of bushes over here in the front, or another tree, or something different. That's what's fun about it. You can literally just pick and choose. You let the canvas tell us where we need to go. Right, this bit of snow over here is a little bit brighter now. Got that bit back there, where you can just see a bit of a shoreline. And then as it gets closer to us, it needs to get a little bit brighter, a little bit thicker. A little bit brighter, a little thicker. Right, totally up to you guys how you want to make it. In this instance, almost forgot we're not doing snow. We're doing dirt. Right? How come no one told me that? How come no one said, Josh, we're supposed to be doing a summer scene? Hello? Hello, summer. So we're just going to keep messing with it until we like the way that it looks, right? You can get to that one point where you blend it just enough, you hit it with that one last brush stroke, and everything looks great. We could even put this side on like a hill. That would be cool. Right? If we got this hill coming down, so maybe up here, with this little bit of darker paint, and all depends on our angles, right? The angles decide what your painting is going to do. So maybe it was a little bit flatter back in there, and then we've got this big dark bit of hill that comes in front, and that just gives us little differences in color, little layers. Right? Let's clean this brush off. Thing's so chock full of paint. But we got our different layers, our different bits, right? Different bits to our land, humps, valleys, different things. Shoot, we could even take another one and go like this. Right? Another bit of land coming in there. And just because it's a little bit darker, that helps kind of split it up for your eye, right? There's different levels over here. Different levels. Maybe this guy's got a little hump in him. Totally up to you what you want to do. I like to think the closer the land comes to us, the darker it should get, and the brighter it should get, if that makes any sense. Well, that didn't work out. Alright, just like that. Maybe there's another little hump. Comes down. Different levels, right? Different levels. We can even take this guy out a little bit more. Totally up to us what we want to do, right? What I really like doing is adding these little ripples that come running down. So let's say like our land is maybe in here. Right? Or even further away than that. All depends. But I like taking these little ripples, and we'll run them down through our water, just like this. You want to have these dark colors, right? It looks really messy. You're like, Josh, you just ruined it. What are you doing? Stop. Why do you keep doing this to yourself? Just trust. Okay, now when we come back in with our liquid white, everything's going to mix up. We're going to have these different little rapids that live back in here, right? We're just going to cut them in with our knife. You want it to be messy. Maybe there's a whole bunch of rocks that live over here. We're going to cut them in. Cut them in, swipe over. Come back, keep doing it until you like the way that it looks. And that way we've got all these little bits of water, water lines, rapids, all kind of flowing throughout the piece, right? All flowing through the river like it's all just choppy over here. And then we're going to come to the side and just really blur all these little bits, right? Now it looks like we've got all this choppy water that's just coming down through our little bit of river. Choppiness. Little choppy bits, right? You can even put rocks in there if we wanted to, really. If that would help. Underneath where these white bits are is where we're going to put our dark bits, right? Like they're like little shelves that the water is just creeping over. And you want to do them pretty straight. Don't want to have any weird little humps that make it look like a rock. In this instance, we're just doing it very straight across. Now we've got all this little choppy bit of water that may be breaking off from, you know, a bigger river and getting smaller as it comes this way. Now we got all these little choppy bits, and then we can decide where our land lives over here. And maybe we have a bit of land up in there. Come back in with our water line again. Like it's bouncing off of the edge of this side and flowing back out, right? Just trying to make them as straight as possible, that's all. Okay, what are we going to do over here in this section now, is the question. We could put a big bit of bush, right, far off back here. Sort of hiding that bit back there. Throw him down. Give him a little bit of color. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. All right, what are we gonna do next? Why don't we put like a boulder? Put a boulder over here. Sort of cutting its way down, just kind of laying on the side of this hill. Alright, little boulder. Give him some color on this guy. There we go. Come back in with our shadow. Hope I'm not going too fast for you guys. Try not to make this one so dang long. There we go. A bit of shadow on our rock. Keep stepping in front of it. You guys might not even see it. Can you see it? Somebody comment. Alright, we'll come back in. Let's mix up the last of this black, blue, and crimson. Quick little mixer there. Come back in again and put maybe a little bit bigger of a bush down here. Without hiding that rock. And then we're going to pull it out in different areas, right? Make it look like it's sort of wrapping around in weird places. Let's get that guy some color. Let's go with the orange and the yellows. Maybe big burst of color on him. Again, leaving lighter areas and darker areas, right? You don't want to have all this crazy, you know, you can't have it full of just all of your brights. You have to have some shadow in there. Got to. Just gotta. Just gotta do it, guys. There we go. And then, who knows, we could just literally put another big bit of bush over here. Just using all the rest of that dark paint that we have. All the rest of the liquid white that we have. And just filling in that bush back here, right? See, without any base color, then you start to lose your effect that it's dark underneath, right? So, always make sure you have enough base to cover what you're trying to do. A little bit of green, a little bit of brown, orange, yellow, all throughout there, giving it these differences in color. Different colors, guys. Throw a little bit of brown back underneath there. Maybe a little underneath here. Just a couple bits of color, that's all. A little down there. A little back there, that's all. That looks really good. I like the way that is. We got this bit that comes out. We don't know if it's fog over there. We don't know if there's, you know, if there's land, if there's river, if it's anything. I'm just going to fog it all up. Take our last little bit of water line. Like it's just coming out around there. And then down into our river. It looks really good, you guys. I really like how this one came out. Hopefully you guys did too. This nice, gigantic size canvas. It looks fantastic. Right, we could even take, if we had enough left, this will even stick. Just do some real dark green, just very light on these trees back here that we made. Just a couple little highlights. Don't need it to be too crazy. Couple highlights and that's it. Just to have a little bit of color back there. You can even put in just a little bit of green highlight on some of these branches back here. Just a little though. You don't want it to draw, you don't want it to be as green as these ones up front. Right? That's going to be too green. Make some little bush down there. See, and over here, we want it to be nice and foggy. Nice and foggy. It's always hard painting over something, right, above something. It's easy to come down. When you start going back up, it gets a lot more difficult. I like the way this one came out, you guys. I hope you did too. I hope you subscribed to my channel. This one was a, mission, sort of an idea on how to, create the same sort of painting that we had done before. In which case, it was a little difficult to do. I never like having the same paintings, right? I gotta have something different. It seems like my shoreline didn't come out as far as I wanted it to over here. So we're just adding a little bit of that. A little bit of dark, a little bit of our brownish mixture. I gotta have our perspective right. There we go. So now our river kind of wraps around, goes around the other way. But it turned out really good. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. And it'll be available on my Etsy shop. You can go to etsy.com/shop/happylandscapeart. You can get all of your supplies on amazon.com/shop/happylandscapeart. Search Happy Landscape Art on Facebook. Find me Happy Little Landscapes on Instagram, Happy Little Landscapes on YouTube. And, you can go to my website, happylittlelandscapes.com, and find everything through the website, okay? So again, hope you guys had a good time. And, I really enjoy how this one came out. We can even add a couple of sticks and twigs, kind of holding everything up in here. Stuff I do when you guys aren't looking. Right, a couple little ones off there, and there's a few in there. I always just go for the dark areas, and that way it looks like, everything else is being held up, and you've got your little dark areas back there, your little dark bits. But besides that, I love how the trees came out, I love how the forest came out, everything looks fantastic. So, hope you guys had a good time, and catch me on the next video, and we're going to say goodbye. Bow! Just like that. Bow! Gigantic 24 by 30 inch canvas. 24, 30. Hey guys, Happy Little Landscapes. Just point at you. You sir. During a mountain with some far off forests, these giant foreground trees, this misty river that just kind of appears out of nowhere. How many people just hate the sound of my voice but tune in to watch me anyway? Guys, what'd you think about that intro video? Leave me a comment if you love it. Leave me a comment if you hate it. Back in the studio with you today with that excellent voiceover on our intro. I wonder where that came from, guys. How much did you have to pay to get that, right? Hey guys, Josh. What'd you think about the intro on that, what'd you think about that voiceover guy, huh? He's got a great voice in that intro video, don't you think? Back in the studio with you today, what'd you think about the voiceover on that intro video, yeah? That guy must have got paid a ton. Now that guy is a fantastic voiceover artist, right? Oh my god, he just kept me just so entertained. Hey guys. Hey. I just came up here. Hi guys, it's Josh, Happy Little Landscapes. You can't see anything but my face. Oh, what a nightmare. Hey guys, Josh, back in the studio with you today. What'd you think about the voiceover artist that did the voiceover on that intro video? Sounds really familiar to me, Josh. I know, Josh. Definitely, I could not tell the difference. Hey guys, Josh, Happy Little Landscapes. What'd you think about the sound on that intro video, yeah? Man, that guy's got a fantastic voice. I know, right? Yeah, he sounds like super professional and it was totally awesome. I know.